We now join the following program already in progress.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jason White welcoming you to our in-progress coverage of the Castrol 1000. And there's an added meaning to it being a 1,000-kilometer endurance race because this is the 1,000th race that HSO has been in. I'm going to move myself to the broadcast booth real quick. Sorry, Dan. Sorry, Dave.
Channel switched.
And we're probably going to be joined by people throughout the broadcast. So let's go now to the server and take a look at the current standings. You'll have to excuse me for being just slightly disoriented because I just finished driving 3 hours in the Rondo number 25. So let's take a look at where we stand right now. The race is 59%, 60% complete. And the current leader is David Saber in the John Fitzpatrick Porsche 956. Second place, Juha Boss in the Cannon Racing Porsche 956. And Adam Hackman is in third with his Porsche 956. So we've got three Porsches up front. Austin Johnson in the Erd is running in fourth place. I do believe that is a C Junior car, but I will check to be... No, actually it's not. I'm sorry. There's another red car that's a C Junior. I will double check that stuff to be sure. But anyway, Austin is fourth overall. Ray Riddall is fifth. Jakob Fredriksson is sixth. Brian Janik is running in seventh, and David Yunt has just retired in the Peer Racing Ford C100, which is very unfortunate because that's a car that definitely was capable of finishing, if not in the top 10, possibly the top 5. So that's really unfortunate for him. Jan Prusa, who's had some hair-raising moments so far in this race, is running in 11th place currently. Dave Miller, my teammate, is running in the lone Rondo. The other one is out of the race, and he is in 12th. And we can expect him to climb up into 11th once he eventually catches where David Yunt's progress was. Sam Smith, who is currently leading the... is running in 13th overall. Then Filippo Marazzi in another C Junior car. Those are the only cars left that are running. Out of the race, and this is a pretty significant retirement, is the Ibanez family, Alberto and Alberto Jr. They're both out of the race in the Porsche. Not sure what happened there. I was driving at the time. Mick Chapman is out of the race, evidently because he ran out of fuel, which is unfortunate. But in an endurance race, it's very hard to maintain mental faculties as well as physical faculties. So it's not all that unusual to lose track of where you are. And so, it can happen to the best of us. Troy Barman in the other Rondo had an accident, and he's out of the race. And Lucas Glockner, who had some hair-raising moments to start the race, he's also out. And Peter Hlavik is last in the order after having completed 41 laps. And I don't believe there was a driver change involved there, so perhaps there was a disconnect that happened there. Not entirely certain. But in any case, if you look at the standings, David Saber is currently leading. Oops, wait a minute. There we go. David Saber is currently leading by 39 seconds. You can see it right there, and we are now into... It's not quite dark yet, but everybody is running with their headlamps. For those of you who aren't following this race particularly closely, let me explain what's really at play here. The Porsche 956s are capable of going a lot faster than the lap times would indicate. The problem is that if they do that, they'll use lots of boost and they'll go over the fuel allotment rule, which for the Group C cars is 600 liters, or 5 stops. You start with 100 liters in the car, and then you fill up 5 times. So here comes David through. He's leading, as I said, by about, getting close to 40 seconds now. And here is Juha in second place. And he's partnering in this car with Richard Coxon. So at some point, we'll get to see if these cars are going to come into the pits and and we'll go in for fuel and tires and possibly a driver change. There's all kinds of different formulas, I'm sure, that are being tested here. Some drivers are driving just an hour and then handing off. Others are driving triple stints, like I did with with Dave Miller. So the other thing to keep in mind is that this car, David Saber's car, I believe, Dave Miller is a co-driver in this car. So Dave Miller could be looking at a victory here, a co-victory, with David Saber, and I believe David Jaques is also in this car, as David Saber is now coming up to lap the Sauber, which is being driven by Ray Radal. He gets in the slipstream. Oh, what you heard there was a slight over-rev, and that's going to be something that these drivers are going to be very careful about, because, I mean, there's no grill tape in these cars, I'm sure, but you do not want to over-rev the engine if you can help it. So, entering the first turn now into Barbecue Bend. As you might imagine, I mean, this is a track that is fairly simple in its layout, but it is also very taxing mentally over a long period of time. So, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on these drivers, see how things go. I am broadcasting solo at this point. If anybody would like to come in and offer their color commentary information, that would be more than welcome. So let's take a little further back in the field. There's Juha, and he's a lap in front of Adam Hackman, who is running in third place right now for Obermeyer Racing. Juha Boss liveried car. And Adam is 20 seconds in front of Austin Johnson, who is in fourth place. Austin getting the back end loose there. And here is Ray Radal, who is 13 seconds. Oh, and Johnson just made a pit stop. That's why we're not seeing the time there. So now Ray Radal is 13 seconds behind, and he's got a 2-lap advantage over Jakob Fredriksson. Jakob doesn't have his headlights on. That's interesting. At some point, the game will instruct him to turn them on, so I guess the game has decided that it's not, they can't legally force him to do it yet. But in any case, Jakob is in 6th place, and it looks like he just pitted. And this is a car that he's sharing with Raul Yareb and one other driver. I'll have to check the list. Here's Janek. He is sharing this car with Jonatan Acerclinth, Johnny Aces. And he has just pitted as well, so he's running in 7th place. Once these cars are on the track for a while, we'll have a better idea of what the gaps are, because you can't have a gap measured after they've just come out of the pits. At least not from where we're standing. Jason Whited in the Martini Racing Lancia is running in 8th place. He's a lap behind 7th place. He's 24 seconds in front of Junior Cardoso in his first HSO effort. He's sharing this ride with somebody, I believe, I apologize for not having the list of drivers in front of me, but I will rectify that situation right now, because I want to make sure that I give credit to everybody who is actually in these cars, even if they're not in them this minute. Yeah, he's Junior is sharing this car with someone named Ronnie Peterson, believe it or not. When Ronnie first joined the forum, me and several others were like, yeah, and my mother's a werewolf. Yeah, good. But in any case, he is currently running in 9th place. 10th place is Jan Prusa, and I mentioned he had had some hair-raising moments at the start of the race, some dices with Johnny Aces, which I'm sure there were probably some Swedish expletives in the cockpit during that, but he's currently the last car in the top 10, and here goes Whitehead by. So Whitehead is lapping quicker than Prusa at this point, but Whitehead's going to have to be careful because he doesn't want to burn too much fuel. That could cause an issue later on. 11th is Dave Miller, my teammate. He is about one lap behind 10th place. And he is 2 laps in front of Sam Smith. Or 37 seconds in front of Sam Smith, my apologies. And Sam Smith is 2 laps in front of the last car that is running. And that is Filippo Marazzi, who is missing his front air dam. So that's a problem. He's going to have to come in and get that fixed. I drove around for a bit without the front air dam on my car just to try to get to a pit window. And let me tell you, if I could do that over again, I probably would have just taken the... It also looks like he might have a suspension issue with that car. Here comes Hackman to put a lap on him, but he's probably just trying to limp to his pit window and trying to get that thing fixed at the same time he's taking on fuel. The problem, of course, is that you total up all the time you're losing driving around not quite as quickly as you'd like. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It may just be better to just come in, take the repair job, don't put any fuel in it, then come back for the actual fuel stop. So that's where we're at right now with the order. As far as the track map itself, this is Kyalami. I think most of us are familiar with this track. It's 2.5 miles around, but the operative measurement is kilometers. 244 laps, or just a little over 1,000 kilometers, and there is a 6-hour time limit. Currently, we are showing 2 hours, 38 minutes, and 27 seconds left in the time allotment, but we have 141 laps complete, so I don't think we're going to get to the 6-hour time limit. It's probably going to run to about 5.5 hours. So, as far as this is a Gold Star event, let's take a look at the points going into this. Austin Johnson is leading with 32. David Yunt is second with 19, and he's going to be dropping down that list because of the issues he's been having in this race. Peter Hlavik is third. Brian Janik fourth. And then Ray Rudall and David Jaques are even for fifth with 9 points apiece. Filippo Marazzi continuing to circulate the track without his front air dam, which, I don't know, it's an interesting situation. Oh, Brian Janik is in the pits. He's making his stop. And it looks like that was just a fuel stop and tires. He didn't take on another driver, so here he comes out. You can see the sunset behind him. Here he comes. The pit speed limit is 30 miles per hour, or 31 actually, which is ridiculously slow in these cars. It feels like you're absolutely crawling. But let's take a moment to ride on board with Brian Janik in this car. This car has a Aston Martin engine, and let's just listen to this car for a moment. It makes a beautiful sound. This is where the car has its advantage down the straight because it's one of the quicker cars in a straight line. But of course, you see, Janik has to shut off way earlier than other cars because it just doesn't handle as well in the corners. So we can confirm that Sam Smith is leading the C Junior class, and Filippo Marazzi is second. Those are the only two C Junior cars running right now, I believe, which means they're the only ones that are capable of scoring points. You have to score you have to finish to score points in this race. So Janik is 18 seconds behind Jan Prusa right now. So we'll see if after that pit stop he can make any inroads on Jan Prusa. As I was mentioning before, Jan had a pretty hair-raising moment at the start of the race, he had some contact with Jonatan Acerclinth in that car that we just saw when it was being driven by Johnny Aces. And I had the $75 seat for it. I was directly behind Jan Prusa, and it was pretty outrageous to look at. My heart skipped a beat because if something had gone wrong, I would have been right in the path of those cars. But in any case, he's in the top 10. One thing that I would point out to everybody is that as a Gold Star race, points are only going to be paid down to 5th place in each class. So that means that Sam Smith is on pace to win the C Junior class, and then Marazzi, if he stays where he is, even though he's several laps down and is having his issues, because he's surviving, just because of that, he has the potential of scoring a considerable amount of points just being in the C Junior class. Since this race is going to last between 2 and 6 hours, the point spread goes like this. First place is 15 points. Second place is 12 points. Third place, 9. Fourth, 6. And fifth, 3. So we'll talk about later how that is going to impact the standings, which we looked at earlier. We'll talk about that more when we get closer to the end of this race. We've got we're on lap 150 now. At least Jan Prusa is. Let's take a look at where. See if we can find the. David Saber is on lap 159. So that means when he comes around this time, there'll be, he's going to be on lap 160 here, so you get an idea there of how much there is to go. We're under 100, so there's about 80 laps or so, 84 to go. Here's a chopper shot looking down at David Saber as he leads around. As I mentioned before, this car is being shared by this car is being shared by Dave Miller and David Jaques. So if they can keep going, they'd be looking at a first place finish in an endurance race. I mean, that's very difficult to do. I don't care what car you're driving. It's incredibly difficult. 40 seconds, so that gap is about the same between Juha Boss and the leader, David Saber. This car, as I mentioned, is being shared with Richard Coxon. And he's got a lap advantage on the car that's running in third place, which is Adam Hackman. All right, so for those of you who are watching, also, if you want to see a lineup in real time, you can look at it on Live Racers as well. So that's one way that we're keeping track of timing and scoring, so keep that in mind. All right, so that's the lineup at the moment. Saber, Boss, and Hackman. We're going to pause in just a moment here for a commercial break. Let's see if Hackman has any traffic in front of him here. He does have some traffic that he's going to run into eventually here. I believe that was the... could have been the... Let's see. It is Janek. Yeah, I thought that's who it was. There's the lineup in the corner there, so you can see it. That'll be helpful. It'll be interesting to see here how he's able to do on the straight with this car. Because the, as I mentioned before, the Aston's pretty quick. And I think that probably speaks more to Adam's ability, or his saving fuel in this situation. So, all right, so we're going to take a... Oh, he finally gets by here. Because the Achilles heel of... And Janek finally lets him by. The Achilles heel of the Nimrod with the Aston Martin engine is that it does not handle as well. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages.
Enter the world of Alpine Mobile Electronics. Car audio systems, mobile cellular telephones, mobile security systems, all with quality that could only come from one source.
Alpine, nice touch.
Lamborghini has the Alpine touch.
Audi introduces the luxury sedan voted Car of the Year by Europe's Motor Press, the new Audi 5000S. Years ahead in German technology, smooth and slippery to the wind, it is the world's most aerodynamic luxury sedan. If you think it's the most beautiful, all the better. The new 5000 from Audi, the art of engineering. Slippery to the wind, it is the world's most aerodynamic luxury sedan. Car of the Year by Europe's Motor Press, the new Audi 5000S. Years ahead in German technology, smooth and... If you think it's the most beautiful, all the better. Audi introduces the luxury sedan voted...
Big engines were easy on oil, so you only had to change the oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. But those days are behind us. Today's smaller, higher revving engines can break down an oil's viscosity within 1,500 miles. That's why there's Castrol. Tests show Castrol suffers no significant breakdown of viscosity even after 5,000 miles. So use Castrol. Otherwise, the future might not look too bright. Castrol, engineered for smaller cars.
The company that has sparked more engines than any other company in the world now has guaranteed performance for your import. Copper Plus, designed to improve the performance of just about every imported car sold in America. Copper Plus, guaranteed to perform better, or we'll give you your money back. Copper Plus, the easiest and simplest way to improve performance, because nothing sparks like a champion. Guaranteed.
And we're back. Let's take a look at the standings right now. David Saber leads. Adam Hackman is in second. Juha Boss is in third, and in the pits right now. Pit stop is in progress. I'm guessing that he's going to be handing the car over to Richard Coxon. This is a replay now. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh. Not sure what's going on here. I have a display driver issue. Oh boy. Okay, well, it appears we're all right, but there goes Richard back out, and he has dropped down to 4th place now. So we'll see what happens here. Yeah, he's already back out in the track. That was a replay. Oh goodness! A major development here. David Jaques is out of the race, it appears. My goodness. He is. And it's John Fitzpatrick racing. Oh no. What in the living heck is going on? He is. He's out of the race. That was the car that was in 1st place. I don't believe this. Oh, and we missed it during the commercial break. My apologies. Well, that, in any case, elevates Adam Hackman to 1st place. Good grief, that's incredible. My guess is, and that's a DNF, my guess is that it had something to do with connections, and that's speaking strictly on the history of of David Jaques having connection issues. Maybe that was the case, maybe it wasn't. We'll have to talk to him. Maybe he can come into the booth and describe what happened. If he can hear us, that would be fantastic, because I'm in here all by my lonesome. Of course, wherever Jonatan is having to be all by his lonesome many times, so I shouldn't complain. Austin Johnson is in 2nd place. We don't have a time... the time differential is 32 seconds right now. And then Richard Coxon is in 3rd. So David Jaques is dropping down the order. Grant Riddall will be elevated to 4th. Jakob Fredriksson to 5th. Whitehead to 6th. Jan Prusa will be elevated to 7th. Janik will be 8th. And Dave Miller in the Rondo will be elevated to 9th. Ronnie Peterson is back in the Porsche 936C. He has relieved Junior. And he's running in 11th. He'll eventually be in the top 10. So that gap is 32 seconds. We'll see if Austin Johnson can get any more speed out of his car and close in on this car. This is the trying to remember what car this specifically is. This is the URD C81. So we'll have to keep a very close watch on this car to see if he's able to gain any time. We don't have a interval right now because there's a problem with well, it's because they just came, the pit stop occurred. So we'll see what happens here. He's closing in right now on Ronnie Peterson. He's on lap 167, so we're getting closer and closer to the end of this race. There's 40 minutes, I'm sorry, there's an hour and 40 minutes left on the clock, but I don't, sorry, 2 hours, I was thinking it was backwards.
User joined your channel.
Oh, here comes somebody now, thank goodness. Who do we have in the booth with us? Oh my goodness. Well, David, I'm sorry to see that that your car's out of the race. I mean, you guys were leading, and it looked like it was going to be a fantastic finish. What happened?
The most recent that you just saw was unexplained. Countdown is normal to take control, switching drivers, right on schedule. Countdown got to 0, it said go, 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 and the game crashed.
Is it possible this is related to the issues that you've been having, like connections in the past, or is this something entirely different?
This is, never had anything like this, I have no idea.
Well, the difficulty, I think, would also be that you have a situation where you're not entirely certain who has the issue. It could be you, it could be the guy who's taking over the car, who knows? Or whoever's relieving it. So, well, I just noticed something on Austin's car. There's a fuel gauge plainly visible on his A-pillar, so we can tell how much fuel he has. That's nice.
That's nice info.
Yeah, nice feature. So, well, that's really rotten luck, David. I'm sorry about that, because you guys were driving an immaculate race. And with the demise of the Rothmans Porsche, I mean, you guys basically had a really great finish on the plate.
Well, Miller and Miller started off with a great stint, and then Saber did fantastic on his, kept it clean, was just running right to plan, and unfortunately it took them both out of it. I'm completely gutted for them. I don't know if they even begin to apologize.
Well, take us back to the start of the race. How did that look from your point of view? Were people behaving themselves, or was it kind of harem-scarum?
There was definitely a couple that didn't get the memo that it was a 6-hour race, I don't think. But managed to keep it clean despite contact, I think, even before the line. So that's definitely something that wasn't wanted, but made it through somehow, and was just running nice in the C100. It was we were on an alternate fuel strategy, so that helped us on the positioning. But 5 laps before that driver change, the normal problem that I have with the stutter came back, and stutter stutter crash. Went down to like 1 frame every 10 seconds. Pulled it off into the grass and tried to make it to the pits, but it was a futile effort, so we had to abandon. It started in turn 1, and by the S's it was undrivable, so it happened that fast.
Well, we're sorry that you're out, but we really appreciate you coming to the booth to explain to us what happened, because we were in a commercial break. We were learning about the new Audi 5000S while all that was going on. So, but in any case, the interesting part now is because we mentioned before the standings. Austin Johnson's in the lead. Well, now he's in the lead overall. He's so I'm not sure what happened there.
They're making amazing use of an alternate fuel strategy. I think they're at least 1, if not 2, pit stops less than what the Porsches are going to have to make. So they're making up big time on that, and you're going to see them stagger the field depending on what cycle they're on.
Well, with the pit stop that was just made, where Juha was relieved by Richard Coxon, they are now running in second place, 27 seconds behind. But as we saw in Austin's onboard camera, in the car, he's about half full of fuel. So probably he's going to have to stop in, I would guess, maybe 20 or maybe 25, 30 laps or something. And then that'll hand the lead back to Coxon for the moment. So
the question is, does that one stop get him to the end? Because if it does, then he has the equal number of stops as Coxon does from this point forward.
That's true.
So right now they're racing each other for position, basically. but Coxon should have the pace. They've been making the fuel work, so now they're equal. Now can Coxon catch them by the end is what it's going to come down to. They've been doing great in that car. I wanted to mention that as well.
Yep, 26 seconds is where they're at right now.
I think you're just going to see Coxon eat into that pretty consistently.
Yeah, no, that's the interesting bit, is I want to see how much Coxon can eat into that, because he could crank the boost up if he wants to. It depends on what his fuel situation is. Race is 70% complete, although that number sometimes is a bit skewed by the game. I'm not entirely sure whether that's reliable.
Should get you in the ballpark, but yeah, I'm gonna have to reevaluate what I got going on here, because taking myself out is one thing, but taking other people down with me is not cool. So I have to apologize to my teammates. They did a great job and deserved a good finish. Rather than that, I apologize.
Well,
and we'll see what happens.
Well, those things happen. It's not. It's difficult to maintain focus. I mean, I had a couple of off-course excursions myself. I could just as easily have been on the outside looking in at the end of the race anyway, just like, for different reasons. So, but we're kind of at the midway point of the HSO season. Hard to believe. What are your thoughts on the fact that this is the 1,000th race HSO has run?
It was fantastic timing. 1,000-kilometer on 1,000 race.
I'm pretty sure that was by design.
Well, even so, that's fantastic. Even more gutted that we taken out of the lead by a technical issue. So that's 2 cars.
So Austin is currently leading by 23 seconds, and you can see that running order in the right-hand corner of your screen. Below, I've got the race. I'm looking from a race point of view now, so that we can have that in screen along with, and we can see the real-time gap. And you can also see a little bit of telemetry there. You can see the speed and the throttle application, which is nice. This is one of the perks of. Well, we actually have, like, since I was running in the race, I haven't quit out of the game yet. I'm a spectator, so we have complete telemetry going all the way back to the start of the race, which is really nice. Kind of a rare treat. Now, Coxon is catching up to Dave Miller here, and I think we'll see a pretty graphic demonstration here of the difference in boost versus a non-turbocharged car. Although you can hear Richard's not really pushing the car that hard. The gap is now down to 21 seconds.
You're gonna have to watch that the whole rest of the race.
Yeah,
I'll let you get to it though, instead of bringing it down.
Okay.
I have a computer to bash.
Yeah, but don't be too hard on yourself. You know what this is. It's I understand what your point of view is. Like, it's other people that are involved as well, but it is what it is. And there are going to be other Gold Star races along the way. But I appreciate you dropping in and explaining what happened. Thanks very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad to be able to get the message out, because Miller and Saber both did a great job, so they should get a little asterisk somewhere for the drive.
All right, well, take care of yourself, and we'll see you again in another race, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll have to see on that, but take care. Good luck to all the rest of the runners.
All right.
Appreciate the broadcast. Thanks, man.
Mr. Green Thumb, thank you.
Mr. Green Thumb in the summer, Mr. Cloud in the winter. Peace.
Yep.
Mr. Disconnect all the time. All right, later.
User left your channel.
So that was David Jaques, part of the team of Jaques, Miller, and David Saber, who unfortunately is out of the race while leading it. We really appreciate him coming in and explaining exactly what happened. We figured it was some kind of a technical issue, and we were right. That's always a danger in these endurance races that there's going to be some kind of hiccup when you hand off the car. Here comes Coxon. He's trying to lap my teammate Dave Miller right now, who's running in 9th place in the Rondo. And the gap is down to 18 seconds between Coxon and Austin Johnson. So we're looking at essentially the race here, because both of these cars, well, let's see. I'll look inside here and see if I can get a look at the, is there a fuel meter that I can see in here? I don't see one. In any case, if Juha's out there, he can probably tell us if that was the last stop for the Canon Racing GTI engineering team. Gap is 17 seconds now, and 1 lap is separating them from Grant Riddall, who is running in 3rd place in his Sauber. That Sauber's got some Japanese on it, it looks like. He's completed 174 laps. And there's 24 seconds between him and Gerard Rion, who is now running in the Obermeyer racing car. So they just made a pit stop, it appears. Gerard is sharing this Obermeyer car with David Yunt, I believe. And Adam Hackman was in this car earlier. Hackman was supposed to be driving in car number 11, but apparently the team in that case didn't materialize. And the gap is still about 15 seconds. I'm starting to wonder whether that fuel meter is accurate because it looks about the same as the last time I looked at it. Gap is dropping rapidly now. It's down to 14 seconds and change. Let's get a little bit more engine volume here for our viewing public. There we go. As we mentioned before, let's go back and look at the points situation here. Austin's in the lead. And if he wins this race, that'll give him 15 points. And he's sharing the car with Thiago Canola, I believe. So in that case, I mean, Thiago's not in the top 5, but it's certainly going to benefit Austin in his crusade for another Gold Star championship. So that's where we're at the moment where that's concerned. And you can see now it's definitely dark. There may be just a slight bit of light on the horizon. Yeah, it's twilight right now. Here comes Brian Janek. This is going to be an interesting comparison of engines right here. I believe this is a BMW power plant in this car. And as we come down this long straight here, this is BMW power versus Aston Martin power. And again, that Aston Martin engine produces incredible speed down the straight. The problem is it just doesn't have the chassis just doesn't have the handling to go with that. It's a bit of a heavy feeling car. So the gap is now 12 seconds. So Coxon is definitely closing it. So we're going to have a really interesting finish to this race to watch. 2 hours to go. So So my guess is that both of these cars have at least one more stop. I'm going to see if I can locate Juha and get his expertise on this. Down the long straightaway. And the gap is 9.7 seconds, so it's definitely closing down. So we'll have a very exciting finish here coming up.
User joined your channel.
Hello, good evening.
And we're joined by Juha. Thanks for popping in here real quick. I just wanted to get some intel from you on the race. We're watching your teammate, Richard Coxon, and he is catching Austin Johnson hand over fist. The gap has dropped a full second in just one lap here. Can you explain for our audience what the fuel situation is for the Cannon Racing Enterprise right now?
We still need to make one stop.
You still need to make one stop.
Yes, and I think it's the same for the leading car.
That's what I figured, but I wanted to get confirmation from
Definitely,
the team member.
Our stop will be around lap 205.
Is there going to be a handoff at that time, or is it just going to be Richard finishing the stint?
No, I've already done all the laps I'm allowed to do.
I see. Well, the demise of David Jaques and David Saber in their car, I mean, this puts an incredible opportunity on the plate for you guys, but you've got to defeat Austin Johnson, a guy who's notorious for not only his speed, but his cunning on the track. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not one until we finish the race. I mean, we've got arguably the car's a lot quicker, but I think he uses less fuel. So I don't know. We'll see how far we go. We should be able to win it, but not easiest guy to beat. So.
Well, we'll be watching very closely. It's going to be a really exciting finish. Thanks for your time. I'll let you get back to your garage.
I might join you back later.
Okay.
User left your channel.
So that was Juha Boss, the co-driver of the car we're watching now, Richard Coxon. And he confirmed for us that this car has one more stop to go. And we can wager that the same is true for Austin Johnson and Tiago Canola in the URD. And look at that gap. It's dropping to 5.7 seconds now. So definitely, and Juha forecasted for us that the stop will happen around lap 202 or so, or a little after 200. So we're definitely going to see a change of position here. At least that's what it appears is going to happen. You can see the twilight there. Of course, the other thing to consider in this situation, you start in the light, you end in the dark. It's not as easy for some people to find reference points when you're driving in the dark. I know that for a fact. Oh. Lost the picture just for a second. My apologies. And we got it back now. So, it'll be interesting to see. 3 seconds now. So before long, we're going to be seeing, and I think you can just see him there in the upper right, the upper corner of the screen. There he is, ahead of Brian Janek. So very shortly, we're going to see a battle for the lead here. Between Richard Coxon in his 956 and Austin Johnson in his URD. We've got 17 people watching this on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in. As I mentioned before, this is a special race for HSO because it's our 1,000th race. HSO has been around since, I believe, 2009, so it's easy to understand how there can be 1,000 races now, given that there's over 10 years. But goodness, it's still pretty amazing to think that there have been 1,000 races run in this league. So Coxon is now right there with Austin Johnson. He's got him in his sights. And Johnson goes for the pits. So, yeah, Johnson is making his pit stop. So Richard Coxon goes into the lead, and here's Austin Johnson making what should be his last stop of the race for fuel, tires, and a possible driver change. Let's have a quick look here and see if he does change over to Tiago. You'll see the name change from Austin to, or Johnson to Canola. But we'll have a look here and see what happens. Again, these are not Formula One or kart style stops that take about 20 seconds or so. Lots of fuel going in, and also the game simulates a driver change. So that would account for also a lot of the time that's in here. Austin's still in second place. We're going to stay with him here until he departs. But basically now it's going to come down to how much of a gap can Coxon open up before he has to come into pits, which should happen, as Juha said, at about 200 in laps and change. Coxon now has a full lap on second place Johnson. And here comes Grant, and he is going to take second place if he can keep motoring on. He's coming out of the final turn and onto the main straight. Johnson's still in the pits, hasn't left yet, so Grant is going to be taking over second place right now. That 3 becomes a 2. Bing! And Johnson is still in the pits, so this is a very long stop. Agonizing to sit there and just wait for this to complete. Here's Gerard, who's running in fourth place. So we'll have to see if he's able to gain. But one would presume that these two, that Gerard and the Rhodes family, have to stop too. So it's really kind of an artificial gain of a position. Gerard by. We'll see if he picks up third. He might be a lap behind. Let's see. Yeah, he's got another lap. Austin has now left the pits, so he did not make a driver change. So he's going to stick with the car, and he is now in third place. Grant Rhodes is in second, and Coxon has a full lap on second place now over Grant Rhodes. So this is really interesting. We're going to have to pay real close attention to... Oh, and there goes Coxon by. He's actually putting a lap on the third place car of Johnson there, who was the leader prior. So, Coxon leads. And as Juha mentioned before, he's done all the laps he's going to do. So it really comes down to if no calamities occur, it looks like it's going to come down to a race between Richard Coxon and Austin Johnson. So it's not always the case when you have a endurance race that cars are this close at the end. So count ourselves lucky that we're going to have a good fight here down to the end. There's our chopper shot. All right, well, while we have a break in the action here, let's pause for just a moment. And we'll be right back after this commercial message. Stay tuned.
Think back. Try to remember when a new American car actually looked new. Cougar from Mercury. Its new rounded contours. Its new aerodynamic design. Its new aircraft-inspired doors actually enhance its function. Cougar from Mercury.
You wanted defense, great engine defense. So we made our motor oil better. HSO Uniflow, our best motor oil. HSO Uniflow gives better defense. Against heat, against corrosion, against engine wear. You wanted better defense, so we made a better motor oil. HSO Uniflow.
You make us better, you do. HSO.
In Formula 2000, this is the car to beat. Burning up the endless road, testing HSO engine oils at high speeds and under stress. It's part of our extensive research program to produce oils that give efficient engine performance, longer engine life. This testing and continual improvement is to give you the engine oils you deserve. We're determined to give you our best. That's how you make us better. So for HSO, the road never ends.
Renault Fuego invites you to enter the Turbo Zone. Renault Fuego, built with the same passion to perform that turbocharged Formula One. Renault Fuego, priced to move you from the here and now into the Turbo Zone.
11.9% financing now available on new Jeep, Renault, and American Motors models.
The thrill of the wild. One vehicle captures that feeling with the strength and agility to master most any terrain. Nothing stands in its way. Jeep CJ, like nothing you've ever driven.
There's a feeling you can get only in a Jeep.
This is the Volkswagen Jetta. German engineering, fuel injection, Volkswagen economy. But also there's a big surprise, because a Jetta's trunk holds all these suitcases. And there's an even bigger surprise. A Jetta can get those suitcases moving from 0 to 50 this fast.
And we're back. So you're looking at Richard Coxon, who is currently the leader, and he has a full lap advantage on second place. And as we mentioned, second place a lap down is Grant Rhodes. And third place is Austin Johnson. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things are going to pan out, because as we mentioned before, Juha says that they have one more stop in this car, so, and that's probably going to come in about 10 laps or so we'll keep a really close eye in this car. So let's take a look at the full running order while we have a moment here. Richard Coxon leads. He's got a full lap, as I mentioned, on Grant Rhodes, and he's got 51 seconds between himself and Austin Johnson. 16 seconds back from Austin is Gerard Rion. And then another further lap back is Jakob Fredriksson in 5th place. So that's a last points paying position. But of course, there's a lot of pride involved in finishing one of these races. So I wouldn't be surprised if people are going to be, even finishing one of these endurance races is a big deal. So if myself and Miller can finish in the top 10 with that very peculiar Rondo, which is very hard to drive, I think it'll feel like a victory in itself. Sixth is the Martini Racing entry of Jason Whitehead, who is sharing this car with Bruno Chacon. I'm wondering myself, is it possible that these guys have a fuel problem, because they have appeared to be a lot faster than other cars.
Wake up.
Richard wants to be interviewed now. Good grief. The problem is he's driving. I don't know. Not sure that's the greatest of ideas, but that's coming from Juha himself, so I'm going to wait until he comes around one more time. As they enter the first turn. Now into Barbecue Bend. Barbecue Bend is actually more difficult than it looks, because there's a little bit of... the car wants to dance to the outside there. Now you can see how dark it's getting here. So here comes Coxon onto the main straight. Had a bit of a loose moment there. We'll see if we can get a few words with our leader right now. I'll try not to ask him any nutty questions.
User was moved to your channel.
Richard Coxon, this is Jason White from the broadcast booth. Do you read me?
I do.
So, you have one stop remaining for this race, and with the demise of a couple other key 956s, looks like you have an excellent shot at winning this race. It appears that your key competition is Austin Johnson, and he may have made his last stop. So where does that leave you guys?
Not much competition, I don't mean to drum him down, but the level his car is just not capable of competing. I mean, we've got 2 laps, but I think in the final stint we'll catch him and pass him.
Alright.
I mean, before we were lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker, so...
Well, I was looking forward to having a dice for the lead, and then of course he came into the pits right away, so...
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Hopefully we'll get one near the end.
Alright, well, I'll let you focus on driving. Thanks very much for your time. Good luck to you the rest of the way.
Thank you.
User was moved out of your channel.
So that was Richard Coxon. Very, very gracious of him to give us an interview while he's driving the car at speed. I certainly would not be doing that myself. But Coxon's one of our better drivers, obviously, so, you know, makes sense that he would be able to compartmentalize his attention and do something like that. But very, very sporting of him to do that. In any case, we're going to keep a close eye on this car because he should be coming in at some point here. Grant Riddall still running in second place. Third is Austin Johnson. Fourth, Gerard Rion. Fifth, Jakob Fredriksson. Then there's a 3-lap gap back to Jason Whitehead, who's in 6th, just outside the points. Brian Janik is 7th. 8th is Lucas Vidra in the Grid sports car, which is kind of an interesting, has a kind of like a Panos nose to it there. And Dave Miller is running in 9th place. Go, Dave! Sorry, I know I'm supposed to be impartial as a broadcaster, but hard to be. Oh, that's kind of cute. Look at that. The Rondo has got like a little lamp on the side to show you what number it is at night. That's kind of cute. Those French, they think of everything. And here's Ronnie Peterson, and he has made a pit stop recently, and there's a light on his too. So I guess the Germans thought that was a good idea too. Sam Smith, who is leading Group C Junior, and here's Filippo Marazzi coming into the pits. This looks like a routine stop, or maybe he's just exiting. Yes, he has just stopped. So he's running 12th overall, but he's second in Group C Junior. And then everybody else on down is out of the race. There's David Jaques' car sitting in the garage. Really unfortunate for him. Grant running second here. He's got to handle up the that was the Viscount down team of Brian Janik and Jonatan Acerclinth. So that's going to be interesting to see where the Radal team falls into this scenario, because we're talking about, that it's probably going to be a battle between Austin Johnson and Coxon and towards the end, but who knows? Maybe Grant's got an ace up his sleeve that he wants to play. I certainly wouldn't count him out at this point. And of course, all these assumptions that we're making have to do with, there not being any issues going towards the end of the race, which is a big assumption. Here's Gerard heading down the straight. He's in 4th place at the moment. Under 96 laps, or there's 195 complete. We're working 196 right now in Richard Coxon's car.
User joined your channel.
And we're joined by Benjamin Rhodes. Hello, Benjamin.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not entirely certain what your role is in this race. Maybe you could fill in our viewing audience.
I definitely can. Now, I'm very new to this group. I came actually just for this race. I race with Sam Smith in another racing league, and since I'm normally up about this time, it's actually just past 5:30 in the morning Australian time. I thought I'd start with him to keep him awake and try and run fewer numbers for him, and I'm also keeping an eye on the fuel consumption of the other Group C junior cars.
Well, it's really great of you to be giving him a hand, and yeah, that's something I forgot about. Is Sam Smith is Australian, and yeah, we don't have many people at HSO who are from Australia for obvious reasons, because everything is timed. It's a French league by creation, so everything is at CET time to start with. So anybody who's on the other side of the planet is going to have issues. Like, similarly, we don't have anybody from New Zealand. We don't have anybody from Japan. So, which is our loss, unfortunately, but it's great to see a couple of guys from down under taking part. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you. No, it's Sam, from what I can tell, he's having fun with it. It's a long race doing, it's not going to end up being 6 hours. We're doing something like that of a solo stint. And I've done similar endurance racing, but not nearly that length. And I thought, yeah, I'll jump in and help keep him awake and keep him enjoying it. And he is at the moment, he's running comfortably first in class, and he's got a healthy fuel margin as well as a lap margin on second in class.
Yeah, and he's going to, if he keeps going, he's going to get 15 points in the Gold Star Championship. So it's not, I mean, that's a pretty significant, and it's a class win, and that'll show up in his results as a class win overall. So, well, not overall, but it will end up, it'll be counted as a win as far as HSO is concerned. So, and his only real competition at the moment is Marazzi, but he's several laps behind, I believe. But Marazzi's also, just by persevering, he's looking at collecting 12 points.
Oh yeah, he is still in range of a point. I've been keeping an eye on Marazzi's fuel as well. That last stop he had, he came in 10 laps or 11 laps earlier than he should have. So I think he came possibly with damage, or either that was having issues with tyre life. Because based on the numbers, he's going to have to stop at least one more time. yes, he's going to stop at least another once more from now, and he is, I believe, 2 laps above, or 2 pit stops, sorry, above what Sam's going to do. So it's interesting that he's actually creating high fuel consumption. He's averaged 36.5 laps on a tank. Sam has averaged just under 43 laps on a tank. He's also lapping a little slower, which might be down to driving experience. I don't want to question. I am frequently in the back of packs myself, so no judgment on my behalf.
No, that's an interesting theory though about the tires. That could be what's going on, because pretty much everybody is aiming for a 43 lap stint on one load of fuel, regardless of, because that's the way you want to time it if you're doing 5 fuel stops. So that does seem a bit short of a stint. Maybe he's run into an issue with tires.
It's possible he's run into an issue with tires overall. Yes, I believe definitely a short stint he has. I know that we've been stopping. Alternatively, we did a left side tyre swap on our first pit stop. Then we went for all 4 tyres. Then we went for the left front and then back to all 4 tyres again. Also because it gives the driver a chance to have a toilet break as well with a 4 tyre swap.
That's true.
But yeah, it's the right tyre is really getting very little use around this track with a lot of right-hand corners. But it depends on how you're driving as well. I know guys that drive very smoothly, and there are guys I know also who, even in endurance racing, I did a GT3 race earlier this evening with a mate who likes to hang the tail out around corners and still gets onto the podium. So it's all about how the drivers drive as well.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point, Benjamin, that this track, and I'll put up the map of the track to go with what we're talking about. It's predominantly right-hand turns. So that is going to have an effect on tire wear significantly. And as you point out, some people like to hang out the tail end more than others. So that could potentially mean that they would have tire wear issues, at least on one side of the car. So interesting analysis.
Exactly. Yeah, I know that with us only swapping the left front in that third stop, it means that Sam wasn't having issues with his rear tyres. But yeah, if you are sort of a person who likes to hang the tail a bit more, that is going to possibly lead to a 2, even on a short stop, you're swapping 2 tyres, which adds to more time in your stop as well. And with more tyre wear, it affects your lap speed as well during that stint.
All right, well, we're watching Richard Coxon right now, who's leading the Group C class, driving the Cannon Racing entry number 14, Gunston 956, and he's due in the pits soon, according to his teammate Juha Boss, and this will be their final stop for fuel and tires, and there will not be a driver change because Juha has already done his limit of laps, or at least there's no point in him going back in because he'd go over the limit. So now we're going to be watching very closely, because when Richard comes in, we'll see if second place and third are able to get back close again, because that's basically going to be the race. But they have to stop too, I would think. Not sure about Austin's situation. We thought before that he had 1 stop to go, but we might be wrong about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't kept an eye on Austin's field. I like to be in position to keep an eye on more of it than just my end of the field, but that was my priority, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to dance off though, just so I can keep an eye on what Sam's up to. But I hope I've been able to help you out for you in a bit of info on what's happening down our end of the field.
Well, you do what you got to do, but I appreciate your popping in and giving insights. That's helpful.
That's all right, no problem. Good luck, mate.
All right, thanks a lot.
User left your channel.
We just saw Coxon there have a really, really loose moment as he went through Sunset coming into Clubhouse. So I'm guessing that those rear tires are spent, and he's probably going to be in the pits anytime now. That's my concerted opinion. We'll see what happens here as he comes around the final turn here. Or second to last. The kink is the very last turn, but it's hardly a turn. Let's see if he goes for the pits. No, he's going to go for one more lap.
User joined your channel.
And how about that? We're joined by Johnny Aces.
Good evening, everyone.
Jonatan Acerclinth, how are you doing, my friend?
A little bit disappointed in myself, but otherwise I'm doing pretty good. And Brian is doing a cracking job, so all is happy in the Nimrod camp.
Well, you got a Detroiter in the car there, and speaking from experience, they're tough. So...
Very much so.
So, how's that Viscount down car handling? It's a Nimrod with a Aston Martin engine, correct?
Yep, it is. It's honestly handling very good. It's of course not as quick as the Porsche, about the same pace over a full race as the Rondieu, I think. So it's a very specific car in the way you drive, because since you have no turbo, you have all the power everywhere, and with it being V8 Aston Martin, it has quite a bit of grunt low down, so we can save quite a bit of fuel just staying low in the gears and yeah, just puttering along.
Well, it looks like he's closing in on Lucas Vidra. He's got about 9 seconds or 10 behind him, so maybe he can use that grunt to get by. Dave Miller, I guess what's going on is people have pitted, and he's up into 7th place. My guess is he's going to probably lose 1 or 2 places eventually, but we'll see. He's probably due in the pits at some point.
Well, so I honestly think from 7th to 10th, we probably all have at least 1 splash left. It'll be very tight if anyone can make it.
Well, people have been mentioning that there's kind of an alternative fuel strategy being played out by the URD team of Austin Johnson and Tiago Canola. So they're kind of the wild card in the deck right now, so to speak.
For sure, and they are definitely flying in that car as well. I was very surprised when I came out after my first stop and it said fast car approaching. Looked back. Well, there's no. That's the URD. Okay, fair enough.
No, I ran with Tiago for a little bit at the start of the race. He and I had a couple of good laps together where we were dicing, but eventually he got the better of me because his car was handling better in turns. I don't know if you've ever driven that Rondo before, but it is a really peculiar car to drive.
Yeah, I tried it and it felt very pendulum-esque.
That is a really good way to describe it. It feels that way. Okay, it appears now that Richard Coxon is coming to the pits. He's slowing. He let 1 car go by here. Yes. Coxon into the pits.
Exactly 40 laps from the end.
Yeah, and this is perfectly timed because he's just starting lap 206. So this is the final stop for the leading car. So we'll see how long this takes. He's got a full lap on 2nd place. But of course, Grant Rhodes, you would figure, is going to have to stop as well. There's the view from across the track at Richard Coxon. Car was up on Jaques for a second, went back down.
Grant probably has to pit again, but I must say both Grant and Ray has done a fantastic job in that Sauber, getting that to fly here.
They started the week with a bit of controversy because they qualified the wrong car on Wednesday, rectified that situation, qualified this car. So now he is on the same lap as the leader, so we'll see if he can come around and inherit the lead, at least for the moment. But you're right, Jonathan, he's probably going to have to stop 1 more time. And this is a BMW engine in this Sauber, correct?
Yep, but it's actually very fruitful in the fuel compartment.
It's not turbocharged.
Nope, so I mean that engine comparatively to the V8 uses very little fuel, so from the little testing I did in it, it's a hot lapping car, so as long as you can be right on the edge of adhesion, you'll be flying in that car, no problem.
I drove it
in terms of fuel.
I tested it before we settled on the Rondo, Miller, and myself, and I had it down as one of our alternate cars to grab because it was quite good. It's nice to drive. All right, so
It's good.
Coxon...
It's just a slight issue that you need to be right on the edge everywhere, every time.
Yeah. And Grant now goes into the lead. Your new leader is Grant Radal in the Sauber racing car. There he is. And Coxon is still in the pits. He's second. Here comes Austin. He's got about a full lap, though, that he has to make up to get back to second place. And Coxon is now exiting the pits. So it looks like Coxon's going to keep second place. So it's a situation now of how much, when Grant's going to pit, and if he can get the job done before Coxon comes around. I'm guessing he will be able to. So basically now we're getting set for the final run to the flag here, which is 38 laps from now.
Oh, and I also noticed just now Junior Cardoso in the 936 just did that car's fastest lap at a 16.3.
Yeah, these guys are doing well. Miller is in seventh, but I'm thinking eventually Miller's going to have to stop. But it is nice to see that persevering in this car. It was a really eventful 3 stints for me before I went on the air. But it's nice to see that this car is in the top 10. If Mrs. Dave is watching, I'm sure she's thrilled about this. I mean, Dave was looking at a potential win because he was driving with Sabre and Jaques in the creepy crawly car. But of course, now that car's out of the race, that's not going to happen. So I'm sure Miller would like to salvage the day by having a top 10 finish. And it looks like that's definitely in the cards for the Rondo Ford France team, number 25. And Jason Whitehead is in the pits too. Now, the interesting part here is he going to hand over to Bruno Chacon to finish the race? This is obviously their last stop. But I noticed earlier that they were burning lots of fuel and driving with lots of boosts, so I don't know if that's going to be a problem for them.
Well, I reckon having lapped the track at the same time as Bruno, he must have been saving a lot of fuel during his stints because he was way off the pace comparatively.
Yeah, that was the only conclusion.
He was even slower
draw.
down the straight than the Nimrod. To be fair, the Nimrod is quite nimble down the straight, but I was firing past him as soon as I got out of the last corner, so definitely think he was saving fuel. I also noticed that Brian is still closing in on Jaques Ferguson does the quickest lap of that.
And we have Gerard on the pits as well, so this is going to be his final stop. And he's sharing this car with Hackman and David Yunt, I believe. Jason Whitehead now departing the pits. And it is him, it's not Chacon. So we'll see if he's able to keep running at the speed he's been running. Or if that fuel saving that Chacon did. It's interesting because it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You know, if you're a driver, wouldn't it make more sense to just have a uniform boost the whole way through?
It depends on what kind of car you're running, I'd say. I mean, the Lancia is a beast when you put the boost on. So I don't know, it might just be that Bruno didn't feel confident running a lot of boosts, and Jason did, so that's why they decided to do the very low boost for Bruno and a lot more boost for Jason, obviously.
Alright, so Grant is still in the lead. We would guess that he probably is going to be coming in pits at some point here to make his final stop. He's coming up now to put a lap on Dave Miller in the Ford France Rondo. Interesting that the Rondo has one lamp that's more yellow than the other. I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah. Difficult to say, but I noticed that it looks like Richard Coxon is running quite a bit of boost. He's keeping up with the Nimrod down the straight.
Well, I mean,
that's not something most of the Porsches was able to do.
Well, I mean, for his for his particular case, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to. Right now, I guess he's employing the strategy of putting in really hot laps right now before Grant comes in, so that he could put as much distance between himself and Grant, and then he can back down the boost towards the end of the race. But the gap right now between himself, Coxon, and Grant is about 38 seconds. You can see it just there. As Grant is now closing in on Dave Miller. I doubt Dave will make much trouble for him. And now we get a very good view of the ugly back end of the Rondo.
I was sitting behind the Rondo when you were in it for a while. That's not a beautiful sight.
No, it is not.
But to be fair, I had the best sounding engine behind me, so it was bearable.
that Aston just sounds fantastic. So, Grant laps Dave Miller. We'll see if he makes a dive for the pits here. Doesn't give any outward impression that he's going to come in. No, he's going to stay out. The other thing to consider here, oh, this is interesting. Look at that. Miller just went by with the acceleration of that Ford engine. That's kind of an awkward situation because, oh, now we're stuck looking at the back of the Rondo again. It's so ugly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it's the case of when you're actually driving the car, you don't have to look at it, so...
And it must be said that these cars are made for go, not show.
That's certainly true.
Enzo Ferrari famously said...
A bit like the cars of nowadays.
Enzo Ferrari famously said that race cars are beautiful when they win.
Very much so. I also noticed I'm watching a little bit behind. Grant Widall really wanting to get by in a couple of places. He nearly nailed Dave twice in the rear there.
Well, I'm glad that didn't happen.
Things, so.
And Grant continues. So, I mean, the other thing to consider here, Jonathan, is some guys would have had to have stopped probably for damage occasionally, and that might have actually caused them to have situations where they took on fuel like a splash inadvertently. I had to stop for damage once, so I was judicious about making sure that I didn't take on any fuel during the stop to fix the damage. I even went so far as to not change tires because I wanted them warm. But you think that might put some people off sequence and cause some interesting situations towards the end of the race?
Well, I'd say the limit, as I interpret the rules, is that you run at in the Group C class at 2.4 at most for the whole race, and you are supposed to be able to make it on a certain amount of fuel from that. So even if you inadvertently put in fuel in the car during a repair, for example, as long as you don't put in more than what you would have if the car was empty at the time. So like you take out the fuel you put in during the repairs and then add the remaining fuel.
So the closest battle on the track right now is actually between your teammate and Lucas Vidra. If you notice, it's
did notice a few laps ago he was closing in, and I hope
3.7 seconds. So let's see if Janek can... Oh, it looks like Janek just glanced the wall coming out of the S's there. He's going to have to be careful. Doesn't want to damage the car and ruin a chance here to move up another spot.
Yeah, well, that's by far the trickiest spot in the Nimrod. It's I don't know how heavy the other cars are, but right in that SS, especially the right-hander, the car really feels awkward. But to be fair, that's the only place on the whole track where it actually feels awkward. The rest of the track, it's
there's adverse
very
camber
consistent.
there.
we are actually running a bit lower wing than was possibly suggested to us, but it's working.
Well, that also comes down to driver taste as well. Gap is 3.3 seconds now.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this car, I know some drivers were talking about the 956 and the understeer has.
Sorry to interrupt,
the
but Grant
Nimrod
Riddall
has
is
that as well.
Sorry to interrupt, but Grant Riddall is in the pits now. So that means that as Richard Coxon emerges from the second to last turn and into the kink, he's going back into the lead. So Richard Coxon re-inherits the lead, and now it's going to be basically a question of can he nurse this car to the end without running out of fuel or needing another stop. My guess is that he and Juha have thought about this extensively and have definitely mapped out a strategy to win the race. So we'll see if in 30 laps they'll be uncorking the champagne in the Cannon Racing Garage.
As long as he put in a full tank of fuel during his last stop, there should be no issues, I think.
Meanwhile, here comes Austin Johnson, and he should go up to second place now as he flashes by the pits. And indeed he does.
Fantastic finish if they can hold that.
Got a bit of a overlap there with a lap car, which is interesting. But in any case, he goes up to second place, and Grant's leaving now. So Grant is he stays in the car, and he's going to retain a third place. Although here comes let's see, there's a 2-lap gap between Gerard Rianceau and Austin. So they're going to definitely retain third place. And we already saw that Gerard had stopped, so it looks like they're pretty cemented in fourth, and I'm guessing that Jakob probably stopped already too. We saw Jason White had stopped, and Dave Miller is continuing to forge on in 7th place. I'm surprised. I would think that he would have to make one more stop. He's leading Lucas Vidra by 44 seconds, but the real story is Brian Janek, who's closing in on Lucas Vidra. The gap is now 1.3 seconds.
And Vidra being held up a little bit here by, I believe that's Marazzi in the...
Yeah, just a bit. So this is the closest battle on the circuit right now.
I can give you an insight in the difference in those cars.
Please do.
The grid is very quick through the S's they are coming up to now. Especially off the right-hander. Pretty good off the last corner. But then of course Nimrod with that V8 has a bit more power down the straight, pulls that back, and then it's a question of how the drivers take the first half of the lap.
When you say a bit, you mean a lot. So
well, depends on the draft.
Those taillights are getting bigger.
Around 3/10 down the straight on the grid itself. More if you're in the draft.
And the gap is down to 0.7 of a second now, so we're definitely going to see a battle here between Lucas and Janek. Dave Miller still cruising along in 7th place. He's 1 lap behind Jason Whitehead, who he was already made his only stop. I'm guessing that Miller's got 1 more to go, and this is going to be his short stint too. So he's only going to have to. He's not going to be up. He doesn't have to fill the tank all the way full. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yep. I think unless there's a big loss of time right here, Brian should be going for 8th down front straight this time round. As long as he can get a good run off the last corner.
He's definitely got the toe now. Looking backwards from Lucas's car. Oh, Lucas had a bobble there trying to shift. Here comes Brian. That ought to cement it. There goes Brian sailing by into 8th place.
Fantastic. Just too bad for our repair times. We should have been probably running just maybe a lap now behind his Whited, but
well, you're in good company because I'm sure that the Rondo could have been possibly 6th or higher if I hadn't had issues, but just to be around at the end is an achievement in one of these races. You can see the smoke. You can see the lockup that Jaques has got going on there with the Rondo. I'm sorry, not the Rondo. The Viscount down Nimrod as they exit the S's, and now we're going to probably see that Nimrod get very small from Lucas's point of view.
very possible, but that grid works very well when running behind other cars. So
he's hanging with him, but definitely that V8 makes a huge difference. God, I love that sound.
yeah, I mean those whatever I did 2 hours 50 minutes were pure orgasm joys.
So Miller continues in 7th place. 6th place is Whited. He's a lap ahead. And then a full 3 laps ahead of Whited is Fredrickson, who holds the last points-paying position for Group C.
Yeah, but unless there are retirements incoming, I think the top 6 are probably set. More or less. At least in terms of who will score points.
Oh, no! We have a development! Gerard is by the side of the course. My goodness. Hang on one second. There he is.
Was he there? He is, yeah.
Yeah, let's have a look at a replay.
He's moving. I think he has probably had a spin in turn 1.
This is an incredible development because it means that Gerard is going to have to come in for repairs. He can't tool around with the car like that. He's got a 3-lap. Oh my goodness! Look at how he's missing a wheel. He's missing a wheel in the left front. I think that can be repaired.
And he must have had an off in 1, probably either locked up or possibly didn't brake quite enough. And
this is an incredible development, though. This is an incredible development because it will give the opportunity for Whitehead to elevate possibly into the points. But my goodness, first order of business is nursing that car back to the pits. You can see there where the left front tire is missing. My guess is that can be repaired. We'll know as soon as he comes in. Once he stops in his pit box, we'll be able to tell whether he'll.
From the practice we've done, it will be repaired, but it is quite a lengthy repair to be had.
There goes your teammate by, and here he comes now. He's going to be going for the pits, or is he? Yes, he's in the pits now. So let's see if that tire is going to be replaced. My guess is it will be. That slow roll down the pits. And there's a very graphic.
I know in R-Factor 1 it was replaced, but it took.
Oh goodness! It is not. The tire is not there.
It is not.
It is not. Now it could just be a graphic issue on my end. Maybe I just don't see it. But it certainly appears like it hasn't been fixed. We'll know when he emerges from the pits if it's a graphic bug or if it's actually. Yeah, but from my point of view, I mean, you have a look and let me know what you see. But from my point of view, I don't see a tire.
I'm only seeing what you're seeing at the moment. I'm not actually on the server, so.
All right, well, there's more damage that needs to be repaired than just that wheel, so
He'll certainly be in there for quite a while, unfortunately.
Yeah, Gerard has shut the engine off, so he's already dropped down to 5th place. Whitehead is got one more lap he's got to make up, but he'll eventually be elevated into 5th place in the last points paying position. Oh my goodness! But he's got the back end all crossed up there, and he's being closed in on by.
I think Richard Coxon has had a spin.
No! Well, he's still in the lead.
He's still in the lead, but I'll give you an idea in a moment here how much time he may or may not have lost right there. Yeah, he's had a spin. It's dropped 20 seconds.
Well, he's still got a 36-second lead. So, I mean, that's pretty significant still.
But the spinning in these cars causes quite a bit of heat in the tires, and if he's not careful, he may run into more trouble.
All right, so Grant Riddall.
Oh, Gerard Rion is a DNF, unfortunately.
Oh,
so
no!
The tire was not repaired.
That's what I thought. Well, that's unfortunate because that's a lot of effort gone out the window. So that's really unfortunate. The other thing that the other significant development is that means that David Yunt won't score any points in this race because the other car that he was racing in is also out of the race. And if we look at the point standings, that's going to be significant because Austin Johnson has 32. If he finishes second in this race, he will score 12 points. That will bring him to 44. And David Yunt will had scored no points. So potentially Brian Janek, I doubt is going to be able to score points in this race, but it definitely is going to extend Austin's lead in the Gold Star standings.
Well, it's not over yet since Gerard retired. Dave Miller will move up, and you will move up into the points.
Well,
in a couple of laps. The question is
not exactly.
Dave needs to if Dave needs another stop, and how it's looking, how long he needs to stop. It's the same for Brian and Lucas.
It's going to be a splash and dash for sure, but actually, it's only going to elevate us to 6th because Whitehead is now elevated to 5th in the last points paying position, and that means.
Oh, sorry, I thought it went down to 6th.
No,
my apologies.
So, and here comes Miller now. He's coming into pits. This, I presume, will be his last stop. Let's see how long it takes. He pulls into the pits. 3, 4, 5, 6. I wonder if he's thinking about possibly not even changing tires here and just adding fuel to go the distance.
Well, the fuel, it takes quite a while to go in, and the tires are done at the same time, so...
Oh my goodness! Brian Janek has had a spin.
Yeah, probably hit the curb on the outside, I'd assume.
Well, it doesn't appear...
He's quite late in his...
It doesn't appear that he has any damage
as well, so the tires could be a little bit meh.
Is he going to have to stop one more time?
I think we have a slight splash left to do. I think we're missing 10 to 15 liters to make it to the end right now.
Oh, Coxon is in the pits right now. That's interesting. Why is
that
he
must have meant he must have flat spotted the tires then and can't really
but now
deal
he's
with
lost
that.
the lead. He's down to 2nd place now. So this really is going to change the outcome of this race. Now he's got 20 laps. We have 20 laps left in the race, and he is going to have to hunt down and overtake Austin Johnson. So we have a sprint to the finish now, Jonathan.
Yep, and Coxon didn't actually stop, so I wonder if that was a drive-through, if when he had his spin he caught a penalty or something.
Yeah, but there would have been a warning, wouldn't there?
Well, it depends what they've been doing previously. I know some drivers were talking about running wide off the last corner and that causing you to get called for cutting if the same thing happened just now.
Okay, so Dave is back in the track, but he's dropped now to 9th place. With the he's going to be elevated to 8th once he gets to the point where Gerard's forward progress was. But he's got a 25-second gap between himself and Lucas Vedra, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, he's been going fast enough, so I think as soon as Lucas and Brian flashes, they will be back up into 6th place.
Fredrickson is now 4th with the retirement of...
User joined your channel.
And we're joined by Juha. Juha, it appears that your teammate made an unscheduled pit stop. Was that for flat spots, or was it like a penalty? What happened?
No, he had switched to medium tires. He didn't like. He spun. He said, "I'm coming in again, and I want the hard tires."
So now we're treated to a sprint to the finish.
Well, not really. we've been counting our fuel. We can turn the boost up slightly.
Right. Well, eventually
I don't think it'll take a long time.
Well, he's got him in his
your channel.
He's got him in his sights now. Oh no, wait, that's Lucas Vedra. Different red car, but I would think that he's not that. He's only 2.8 seconds behind. And then he's got a further 16 seconds between himself and Grant, who has made his final stop. So Grant looks like he's pretty cemented in 3rd place if he can keep going. And then there's a 2-lap gap back to Jakob Fredrickson, who is running that car with, I believe, Yareb. And they inherited 4th place after the retirement of Gerard, who it looked like had a pretty significant off at Crowthorne Corner.
Well, he's really reeling in Coxon now. So.
Yep, they're right there. So
we might actually have another change of leader by the end of the lap.
This is the battle for the lead, 0.6 of a second. There's a lap car just in front of these. I would think that Coxon should be able to overhaul the URD on the straight quite easily.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. Yeah, he's already got him.
Well, okay, here he goes by now. Yep.
Yeah, we're in the lead again.
Coxon goes back in front. So as long as he doesn't have any more issues, I mean, we could be looking at the winner here. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've got enough fuel. We've got the right tires now. All he has to do is keep it in the right direction.
Jason Whitehead has inherited 5th place, but he is really twitchy in that car, that Lancia. The back end's all over the place. They had a really peculiar strategy, him and Chacon, Juha. Chacon was running very slow laps to start the race, and then Whitehead turned the boost up and ran the car much faster. I'm not sure.
I don't think the fuel strategy was well balanced. There seemed to be a little bit of work needed for that team. You don't know. You have to ask Bruno how much fuel he was using, or if it was really was obviously doing something wrong, but it was that much time.
So Dave Miller.
It uses a lot. Go on.
No, just pointing out that Dave Miller has made his final stop. We have Mrs. Dave watching, and it's unfortunate that Dave was a part of the team of Jaques and Saber, and they were leading at one point. So what looked like could be a potential scratch win for Dave's shared with those two went up in smoke. Unfortunately for them, but here he is running in 8th, and it looks like he's catching 7th place Lucas Vidra. So if Mrs. Dave is watching, I figured that your man would do a good run towards the end here. We'll see if he can elevate the car further up into the top 10. Maybe if we're lucky, who knows? Maybe we'll have even more. We'll see.
I'm going to join my teammate again.
All right. Thanks very much for stopping in. We appreciate it. Oh, there's a yellow flag here in the kink. I didn't see a car stopped there.
User left your channel.
Well, in any case, Coxon has turned up the boost now, and there will be 14 laps to go as he comes by this time around. He's on the backside of the course now. Here is a view from Austin Johnson's... Oh, this is interesting because Grant Riddall is in third and he's right with Austin, so we could see a battle here for... This is a battle for second place between Austin and Grant. And these two have made their final stops, so... And these cars are both BMW powered. Yep, 14 laps to go now. Another yellow flag briefly there. I'm not sure what that's about. Somebody might be in the pits. Oh, and you can see that Austin's got a bit of an advantage in straight line speed as opposed to Grant. So this is not going to be a foregone conclusion. He's caught up to him, but this is not... oh, goodness. Austin goes on the curbing there. Looks like he's got the measure of him here. This is fantastic after coming down to the end of a 1,000-kilometer race, and we have this close of a battle for second. Oh, he slips to the outside. Let's see. Oh, now the inside of Clubhouse. Grant goes through, takes second place. Let's see if Austin can counterattack here. So it looks like Grant has cemented that spot now, but this is where Austin has some speed. See if he's able to counterattack. No, he just doesn't have the room there, unfortunately. So it looks like Grant's got the measure on Austin with regard to the backside of the course. His Sauber is handling good. So meanwhile, Coxon leads with a 27-second gap, roughly. Let's look further back in the field. Fredrickson is in what we would call a solid fourth. He's 2 laps behind third place and 3 laps in front of fifth place. So all he has to do is keep going. Quite a boring finish for Fredrickson, but still, it's fourth place, a fantastic result. And he's sharing this car with Raul Ureb, so that's a fantastic result for them if they can keep going, which they probably will, knowing these guys. Whited still soldiering on in 5th place. In his Lancia, his turbocharged car. But man, that car oversteers something fierce. Jaques is in 6th. And 7th is Dave Miller, because Vidra is coming into the pits for what I would presume... Oh, it's a drive-through penalty! He must have clipped the course or something. That's an incredible development. Very unfortunate for Lucas, but that means that Miller goes up into 7th place. I want to take a moment and tell Mrs. Dave that I'm really thrilled with... I knew that Dave would do really well in his stint, but I was lucky to get this car to a point where we were in this situation because I had some pretty arduous stints. So I feel lucky that this car's even running right now. But the gap now for Dave to get 6th place is down to 12, well, it's about 13 seconds between himself and Brian Jaques in the Viscount down car. So maybe we'll be treated, we've only got 20 laps to go, but maybe we'll be treated to a battle between Jaques and Dave Miller in 2 very different cars. Yeah, Vidra has left the pits, and he is in 8th place. 9th is Junior Cardoso. They've had kind of a up-and-down drive in this race. And here is Sam Smith. We haven't talked much about Sam, but he is the leader of Group C Junior, and he's got a full 2-lap lead on, well, I think it's a bit more than 2 laps, but in any case, 2nd place, and the last car running is Filippo Marazzi. And just by virtue of keeping going, Sam and Filippo are going to score a large amount of points in Group C Junior class, which has their own point system separate from the main points, I would imagine. Coxon can confirm that on the forum. So, yeah, Junior Cardoso actually he's a lap behind Vidra. And Miller has now got a full lap on Vidra himself from that drive-through. So and the gap is down to 9 seconds. So Miller is definitely closing on Jaques. Jaques with that grunt of the V8, but the Rondo also has a lot of grunt down the straight, I might add. So this will be a really interesting matchup potentially here. Oh, now I know where Acerclinth is. He's in the Nimrod garage, probably talking with Jaques. So, we'll see, and there goes Grant by. Grant is in 2nd place. Oh! Jaques is coming into the pits! Drive-through penalty! What in the world is going on? This means... My goodness, this means that Miller goes up to 6th place. Unbelievable. But he's making a pit stop too. So regardless of, I mean, he had a drive-through, but he's making a pit stop at the same time. So that's surprising to me because I thought that Jaques would have been finished with pit stops. Unbelievable. So, barring any catastrophic circumstance, Whitehead is in 5th, but he's a full 2 laps ahead of Dave Miller, and you can lay the blame for that at my feet because of the difficulties I had in the earlier stints. Sorry, Dave, and sorry, Mrs. Dave. But it's going to take an act of God for anything else to happen that'll elevate that car, but that's a fantastic effort by Dave. Now, here comes... Or you can see how much. Johnson is backing off here, because there goes Miller by to unlap himself. Coxon leads by 37 seconds now, so he's pulling away. Here's Grant. A 6-second gap between himself and Austin Johnson. So it looks like that's pretty solidified. And as we mentioned before, Jakob Fredriksson so there are now working lap 237. So we have 237, 238, 239, 240, 241, 2, 3, and 4 to go. So, a lot of things that we thought might happen in this race did not happen. Things to consider: the Rothman's Porsches. They did. There was just one, but unfortunately did not finish the race. We're not entirely sure what happened there. And then it was the lead for Jaques and Miller and Sabre that evaporated when they had technical issues. Coxon just now flashing the pits. I'm not sure what that was about. He couldn't possibly be making another stop. There's the chopper shot, and you can see the gap there, 37 seconds. So you see the order there on the right-hand side: Coxon, Riddall, Johnson, Fredriksson, Whitehead, Miller, and Janek. And Vinter. So as he comes by here, he'll be starting lap 239. We'll see if there was any anything that meant with the flash that he was doing. I guess not, because he's continuing on. There is Grant Riddall, 40 seconds back. The gap between himself and Johnson is continuing to increase, 8 seconds now. And here is Fredriksson soldiering on, all by his lonesome. Whitehead continuing on in fifth place in the Martini Racing. Excellent result for him in this car, considering the peculiar fuel strategy that he and Coxon were implementing earlier. And here's... So there's a full minute and change between Janek and Miller. Very unfortunate that they had to make a stop when they did, but so it's just a matter now of 14 more laps and a well-deserved top 10 finish for the peculiar and very ugly Rondo. Five laps to go now. 5 laps to go. exiting the final turn. 4 laps to go now as they come down the start-finish line, or start-finish straight. Fantastic effort by Coxon and Juha today in this car, bearing in mind that they had to manage their boost and their fuel the whole time, which is not easy to do. So 241, 242, 243, and 244 to go. 43 seconds separates Grant Riddall from the leader. That's increasing, and he's coming up now to put a lap on Jason Whited in the Lancia. That's a Lancia. And the gap continues to increase between Grant and Austin Johnson, who I guess will be settling for third place at this point. Third place paying 12 points in the championship, and looking at the points right now, that means he would have 44 points in the Gold Star standings. And Austin is he's won the Gold Star before, so it's pretty significant. He'll have a lead that's pretty solid going into the second half of the HSO calendar year. Dave is closing in now on the Lancia. This, of course, is not a pass for position. It'll merely make him only a lap behind this car. As Coxon comes around the backside, he's going to be going into his final lap on the next circuit. Here comes Coxon, and he's starting his final lap of the race. The Castrol 1000. It comes down to just one lap. Fantastic result for Richard and Juha, assuming that they can make this one more circuit. 47-second gap to second place. Austin is in third, another 9.7 back. Fredrickson solidly fourth. Whited is fifth. And sixth for Dave Miller. Through the S's for the final time. Now into Leo Cup. accelerating up through the gears one more time. All he has to do is do one more corner, and he has the race, the 1,000th HSO race, 1,000 kilometer race, has been won by Richard Coxon and Juha Boss. There is the checkered flag. Coxon and Boss victorious in the Castrol 1000 at Kyalami. A fantastic effort from these two. And even with some unscheduled stops and some things to consider along the way, I wouldn't say hijinks, but difficulties, they managed to put the victory together. Fantastic work. Here comes Grant Riddall to finish second place. He's got Dave Miller just behind him, who's going to be finishing in sixth. Here they are, coming off the corner. A very well-deserved second place for Grant Riddall. As I mentioned before, they had a bit of an arduous qualifying session with this car. They had that wrong car for a second. And there's the finish. Dave Miller finishes in sixth. Here comes Austin Johnson. He finishes in third place. Fourth place coming across the line now is Jakob Fredriksson, who shared this car with Rally Ureb. That's a great result for them. Well done. And here comes Jason Whitehead. I believe he's already taken the flag. Yes, he has. He finishes in fifth, last points paying position in Group C with Martini Racing. Sixth place for Dave Miller. Fantastic result after an arduous first few stints. Thank you so much, Dave, for such a fantastic drive. Seventh place for Brian Janek. As we're joined by Juha. Juha, congratulations on a fantastic drive in the 1,000th HSO race.
Thank you very much. Well, if you can move Richard along, you can talk about it as well.
All right, let's see. Where is he at?
User was moved to your channel.
There he is.
Right. So we're joined by the winners of the Castrol 1000, Richard Coxon and Juha Boss. Gentlemen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So it seemed, I mean, there were a few surprises along the way. I think you had to make a tire swap at the end there, Richard, and in order to get the car home. But you guys displayed incredible poise under pressure. So how was the race overall, do you think?
I'll let you all speak first.
Well, I had a very fast teammate, and all I had to do was lap and keep it on the track so he could work his magic when he took the wheel back, which is exactly what he did, because I dropped really far behind Dave Miller, and I couldn't make up time when David Saber took the wheel. Well, they dropped out, obviously, but I still needed Richard because the guys behind in the URD and the Zauber were really quick. Richard worked his magic despite speeding and stopping for tires. God knows what else he had to stop for, but still made it.
Channel
well
deleted.
done to him. And then I finally won a race after 3 years at HSO.
So this is your first scratch win at HSO? That can't be true.
Yeah, it is. The very first.
That's
I've had
amazing.
a lot of second places, but I've never won a race.
Well,
not till now.
Congratulations, Juha, and you got
Thank
to
you.
share it with Mr. Coxon. As everyone knows, that you two are two of the driving forces behind what happens at HSO. A lot of work goes on that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes. So it must be really gratifying to not only win this race as a team, but also the 1,000th race for HSO. That must mean something a little more special.
Yeah, I think that's more of a thing for me, and it's just a massive accomplishment for HSO. I'm sure when the original founders
User
started
joined
it,
your channel.
they didn't expect it to be going this long or get this big. I mean, look at us nowadays. It originally started as just the French League, and now it's a worldwide league, so it's just great to be part of it.
And we're joined by Jakob Fredriksson. You had a pretty quiet race to finish out because you had miles of room in front of you and behind you in fourth place. But fantastic result for you and Raul Ureb.
Yeah, thank you. I wouldn't say it was a quiet run. I had a lot of fun trying to chasing fastest lap of the race because Raul did a great job saving fuel for us. And that, as everyone knows by now, was the key to this race, at least for the Porsches. So I really went at it at the end, could go circles around everyone my entire drive. So I had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, definitely. You're correct in that that was the difficulty with the Porsches. And we're joined by my teammate, Dave Miller. Dave, congratulations on bringing the Rondo home in 6th place. I wish that it could have been better, but your teammate had a few off-course excursions that cost you that lap you can lay at my feet. So, unfortunately, it cost us points. But fantastic result coming from like just outside the top 10 up into 6th. How did the car feel for those 3 stints?
Thank you, Jason. I've just got to say this has been probably the most fun I've ever had racing ever. So a big thank you to HSO and to everyone who's made this possible. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I really hope we get to do some more of this again. But yeah, taking over the Rondo after the stint in the 956, bit of a culture shock at first, going from lifting and coasting to maximum attack. But I got settled into a good rhythm, and from then on it was just hunt them down and see how we go. And in the end, it seems to have worked out.
Well, it was a really good result in a car that is not the easiest car to drive by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm going to see now if we can. I'm going to poke. We do have one other person that we can congratulate, and that would be Sam Smith, because he is joining us all the way from Australia, and he won the Group C Junior class.
User joined your channel.
Here he is, Sam Smith from the other side of the world. Congratulations on winning the Group C Junior class.
Thank you very much. All two of us left.
Well, there were only 2, but you persevered and got it done.
Channel.
And
yeah, it was great fun. I saw I actually unlocked Round the World and Iron Bladder for this race, so pretty happy with that.
User disconnected from your channel.
Well, it's a fantastic result for everybody, and a good race from HSO. The one thing that I would mention to, since Juha is here, we noticed some people were having to do drive-throughs towards the end of the race. Do you think that might have been just accumulated cuts of the circuit, perhaps, that just finally they just ran out of warnings?
We didn't get any. That looks like the most logical explanation. Back cutting. Wouldn't exactly know where you'd cut around this track, but apparently you can.
Well, I think it's probably the most prone place to do that is in the S's. Because if you go, and the other place that's prone is when you come off of Crowthorne. If you go too far in the curb on the outside before you go into barbecue, you can trip the thing. I did that a few times in practice. So.
Yeah, and the start-finish straight even has a habit of giving up penalties if you go into the gravel on the left. So. That's another one. Figured it.
Well, in any case, it was a very exciting event for everybody. Before we close out the broadcast, let's talk about what's coming up next at HSO. A couple of things we can talk about. Wednesday of this week, it was pushed back 1 week for some reason, but we're going to be doing the 10th round of the 1996 British Touring Car Championship Granada Land Ford Dealers Motorsport Weekend. Of course, for us, it's on Wednesday. Not technically a weekend, but in any case, Mick says that he got a penalty for speeding. That's what it was. So yeah, I guess that'd be another potential reason why you'd have a drive-through is from speeding in the pits, which I think everybody would agree was a pretty challenging speed limit, 31 miles per hour. So that's what's coming up on Wednesday, and then the following Sunday we go back IndyCar racing, the Budweiser Cleveland Grand Prix, or Grand Prix of Cleveland, round 6 of 15, Sunday, June 6th. Or 16th, sorry. Sunday, June 16th, on the airport circuit, which I know that Coxon is not a fan of. He doesn't like airport tracks.
I don't like German airport tracks. American ones aren't too bad.
So, well, I mean, since we have you here, I mean, you're driving the True Sports entry, and you're still in a good spot in the points. Are you looking forward to Burke Lakefront Airport?
Yeah, I had a good run last time we did it. Jacob picked me at the end. So, hopefully I can have another good result, but a top 5 and I'll be happy. So that's the aim.
All right. Well, I guess we can close out the broadcast. Any final thoughts from any of you before we say goodnight?
I just want to say thank you to, I know everyone says without us couldn't have the races, but without all the members we couldn't have the races either. So thank you for being part of HSO, and I hope we have many more races like this and many more great races in the future. So thank you.
Anybody else have any thoughts before we say goodnight? Nope. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in and being patient with my jello brain from having driven 3 hours prior to the broadcast, but I wanted to make sure that we got some of this on TV because of the significance of it being the 1000th race. So that was the Castrol 1000. Congratulations to Juha Boss and Richard Coxon, and to Sam Smith. And I would think that we might have coverage of IndyCars next Sunday. We'll see, but this is Jason White saying so long from Kyalami. Thanks for watching.